Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classic / Known Classics. This is episode number 1506. No, not 16. 14. And Doubleshot number 1418. Now, I'm discussing here two Wonder Woman trades. It's the two volumes that have the storyline Odyssey. Yes. When I get back to the damn page here, come on. No. No, that's not what you do, damn it. Okay. Yep, Wonder Woman Odyssey. It is a technically a 14-part story because 600 has the prelude to this one. Okay, now it started with the prelude from issue 600, which I will discuss 600 in a bit. Now, 601, 614 is the main bulk of this story. It was started initially by JMS, J. Michael Straczynski. He did start this story. One of two books he was working on at this point in time. The other, of course, being Superman, what is very controversial, Grounded. This one wasn't, let's just say, as controversial as that. Yes. This book, in a way, rebooted Wonder Woman. Which had wore pants, a leather jacket, still kept her gauntlets. And at the start of this, she did not have her lasso of truth. No, she didn't get that until around part 6. Yes, actually more like part 5 is when she got the lasso of truth. And throughout this book, she has trouble with her memory. And throughout also, here's a fun fact about this story. From what I heard from Linkara, I don't know if this is fully true or not. They originally planned on Wonder Woman appear in Justice League Breakdown story, but here is a problem. This storyline was going on the same time. And the way Linkara describes it, and it's kind of true, the left hand didn't know what the right hand was doing. DC editorial for you. Now, I have no idea why JMS did this for. Or Superman had him walk across the freaking country for over a year. Or Wonder Woman, he pretty much rebooted her for some reason. She had not been rebooted like this, not since 1986. Though that guy was positively received. This, from I remember the reception at that point, I vaguely remember about this because at the time when I started reading DC Comics, this storyline had just started at that point. It was in October of 2010. This storyline had just been going at that point. I wasn't reading Wonder Woman until a few years later because I was only interested in reading Batman and Green Lantern because I liked those characters. Wonder Woman was not one of my high priorities to read. Later on, I did read along with The Flash and the Justice League. And since then, I've read all the issues of Wonder Woman. Now, this storyline has her, searching, basically. Also, the world has been wrecked in this series. And the thing is, outside of this, the world is fine. It just basically, Wonder Woman's just lost her memories and at this alternate reality. Also, apparently, we have this group of, people who want to go after Wonder Woman, made up of Artemis, the Cheetah, and Giganta. Also, you have Wonder with this choker around her neck, which is interesting. And the way the style of the middle part of her outfit, I would say the power gave Jim Lee the inspiration for her costume in the current continuity. I will get to that. So at one point, she runs into her actual look, which at the time basically was the classic bikini look that she was known for having. You don't want to show off her sexy legs. The outfit a lot of people really love. And they had that version merged with her, and she kind of was starting to restore herself back to normal. And then eventually, Like, she was apparently in this world, Themyscira was destroyed, and then she finds it with Themyscira being restored, and then she hugs everybody after seeing it for a while. And the thing is, her mother, and it looked like her memory came back. Everything was all hunky dory, and then the two happened. Yeah, we had this story end in very happiness. Now, Phil Holster was the co-writer of the story. Now, this is something I should point out about the story. This encompasses Superman Grounded. Not only James wrote those two stories, from what I heard, he didn't even finish writing them. Nope, he didn't. He actually left halfway through the story. The reason? You might ask, why did JMS leave these books? Well, DC pulled them from these books because DC wanted to write Superman Earth 1. That is literally the reason for this. In my opinion, Odyssey was definitely a good story, and it being 14 parts makes total sense. I personally loved it. I think it was a good story. I kind of wish to go back to basically the way things were, because I had nothing against Brian Azzarello, but his run for me was a bit mixed at best. It was some high and low points here and there. And from what also I heard, a lot of people hated his run. That came right after this because it was first Brian Azzarello, and then it was Meredith Finch. I've heard a couple different opinions about. There's a lot of people who loved her run for the book. I personally one of those people. And some people didn't like it because they basically think that it wasn't as good as Brian Azzarello's run. Whatever. And then we had Greg Rucka come back to the book, first time since 2006. He stayed in the book for over a year, and then was handed off to a brief fill-in writer for one story, and then James Robinson took over. We had Steve Orlando, G. Wilson. Excuse me. This book went through a ton of writers. Like, in the past decade, I think this book went through like 5 or 6 writers in that period of time. So that's Brian Azzarello, Meredith Finch, Greg Rucka, James Robinson, the fill-in writer, G. Wilson, Marco Tamakaki, and the current writer. 7 writers in 10 years. Here's one for you for Batman. Scott Snyder. James Tynion. He was also most recent in the book. Tom King. And guess what? That's it. 3 writers for that book in 10 years. Superman went through probably a little bit more than, let's just say, Wonder Woman did. But 7 writers after JMS left? 7 writers in 10 years. Wow, that is a lot. A lot of writers. Yep. But I do find this story to be really good. Now, discuss something. Now, I should point out something about this issue. Now, in the trade form, honestly, just collected in the actual issue itself, they just collect just the prelude story from this issue, kind of similar to what DC did with Arkham Knight, where they collected the short story from that led into that story arc. Like, here's Wonder Woman 600 for you. Believe it, I actually bought this issue from Amazon. It's a great issue. I don't remember where it is, though. The book itself had an introduction. Oh my gosh, seriously. Stay in the freaking thing anyways. Yeah, it's just my phone charge. It keeps falling in and out for some reason. Not sure why. Now, this book has got a ton of writers and artists. Oh my gosh. The book basically had a live introduction by Linda Carter, the world's most recognizable Wonder Woman. The first story, I believe this was actually Gail Simone's last story for Wonder Woman for quite some time. It's, get this, you're going to love this, is Wonder Woman teaming up with every single female DC superhero who is alive at this point, take on Ivo and his robots. Even Misfit shows up here. And it's a brilliant show. Even Bulleteer shows up here. Like, Wonder Woman knows who she is. And, like, And of course, Batwoman invites her out to a bar. And then later on, we have Vanessa Campos, who at one point was Silver Swan. Yeah, Silver Swan. And she graduates, I think this is from college. Yeah, I think she's either graduated from college or high school, possibly college. And it's called Validation. And this is, of course, done by Gail Simone. And the artwork is done by George Perez. Yes. And you at least gotta love this artwork by George Perez. Yeah, this artwork is 11 years old, but it's really good. Now, who is on this page, you might ask? Well, we have Wonder Woman Dennis, and we have Mary Marvel, Stargirl, we have Amazing Grace, Stephanie Brown Batgirl, Ravager, Reanimatory Question, I believe that's Judo Master, the Bulleteer, Misfit is here, Batwoman, Manhunter, the female one, I think that's Cyclone, Alley, aka Terra, Dove, the female one, Supergirl, and I think that's it. But it's overall really good story. And this was Gail Simone's last story she ever did for Wonder Woman. I think up until like 750. Yep. Then we have a pin-up by... Come on, stop it. By various people. And then we have an Amanda Conner story. Where you have a story where you have Wonder Woman team up with freaking Power Girl. By the way, the story is, well, written and drawn by Amanda Conner. They'll take on this egg villain who's an enemy of Wonder Woman. It's an absolute fun story. And of course, there's a reminiscing. Of course, we have Starkey, who is Power Girl's cat, who actually has been around since the JLI days, which she still keeps. It's an absolute fun story. Mm-hmm. The third story is Firepower. Yep, that's the name of it. It's literally her and Superman, basically for team-up story. Now, they also did this for Action 600, which in the story, if anybody's ever read it, they actually had Superman and Wonder Woman make out. Yes. And, of course, this story here is done by Louise Simonson. I don't think she's ever written Wonder Woman I can think of. And I don't think Amanda Conner has either. But Amanda Conner, the only reason why I think they had her include because, well, it's a female writer. This story is they just team with each other to say some disasters. Fighting look like Hercules. I mean, absolutely really good story. Next story is kind of a recap of Wonder Woman's backstory. And this story is called The Sensational Wonder Woman. This is done by Jeff Johns and Scott Nolans. Yeah, really good artwork by Scott Nolans. Yeah, I've met Scott Nolans. Nice guy, and I love this guy's artwork. And I kind of wish DC would give him a lot more work. And of course, the last story is the prelude to Odyssey. Wonder Woman 600 is really good. Like, if you're a Wonder Woman fan, I do recommend checking this out. I give the issue itself a 10 out of 10 because it's really good. It's written by people who actually clearly love the character. And yes, I do know about basically Jeff Johns' flack on Wonder Woman because of the stuff related to Amazon's attack. Which, he didn't write that story at all. As a matter of fact, he had nothing to do with it. Despite what some people might think he did. Jeff Johns, I don't think he's never written the Wonder Woman comic that I can think of. He has written Wonder Woman in a few other books, Justice League. I think a couple other things, but that's been it. I mean, if you want to know who actually wrote on Amazon's attack, it was Will Pfeiffer. He wrote the damn thing. So blame him for what happened to that book. Well, you could probably point to blame him or his editor for that piece of crap book. Yeah, that book is awful. I've read it. It is as bad as everyone says it is. The artwork is probably the only thing decent about the book. The other thing that is kind of bad about the book, and I agree with this opinion, like, they mention stuff that happened in the Wonder Woman book, which the tie-in, which the book does not include. Yes, the trade paperback for Amazon's Attack does not include it at all. Nope. Of course, that came out. You see, by the time I was reading comics, that only came out just, I think it was like I think it was like 2-3 years prior to me start reading DC comics. Yeah, I was not reading at that point. I think I read a little bit after that, but I was not reading Amazon Stack at that point. I did read it later on, and yes, like I said, it's as bad as everyone says it is. Yep. So yeah, that's episode review. Next one's going to be Shaman King. And then I'm hoping I get time to do my other reviews, which would be how Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom, Case of Atlantis, and Case Closed. Okay, it's in the video. Bye.